Hello, hi, it's the Rev Pipster here, and thank you for tuning into this video. Now, I've been listening to and watching a series of videos today, posted by Heaven Clear on the John Ankerberg shows, some of the old ones, and this one's with Walter Martin, and he's refuting, him and a colleague are refuting the Oneness Pentecostalism, which Heaven Clear it seems to applaud. Yeah, Heaven Clear. Walter Martin's exposed the Oneness Pentecostal cult. So it gives it a big round of applause. And Walter Martin was great. Anyone who's involved or wants to be involved in comparative religions, counter cult ministries, get his books, look for his videos, and listen to his speeches and stuff. A wealth of information. And now, what I want to bring up though is Walter Martin's technique. When he was speaking to the Oneness people, okay, it seemed to me that he was, I'm assuming, using the King James Bible, but in refuting their doctrines, he appealed to modern scholarship. In refuting their doctrines, time and time again, he thumped back again on the same issues on the Greek grammar, the Greek syntaxes, the definite articles. He kept going on this, as did his colleague. He had these guys on the run. They hadn't really understood these at all, because their belief system was founded and was being justified on questionable interpretations of the English translation of the Bible they were using, which is the King James. Now, on top of this, he spent a long time, and his colleagues spent a long time discussing the Granville-Sharp rules. Granville-Sharp, of course, discovered patterns within the Greek text, which has led to how in the last 200 years or so, how we actually translate Greek. He found a rule, and of course the most famous of these rules of the Granville-Sharp construction is probably passage in Titus, where Jesus Christ is clearly identified using the Granville-Sharp construction as God, as Jehovah God, and yet the King James Bible translators, who didn't know about the Granville-Sharp construction at the time, all the other places where they identify Jesus Christ, when the Granville-Sharp construction is applied to it, the English translation clearly identifies Jesus as Jehovah. And yet there's this place in Titus where the Granville-Sharp construction shows that where the King James says, seems to say that the Father and the Son are two separate people, the Granville-Sharp clearly, when applied, puts those two together and will clearly state that Jesus Christ is God, just as the Father is God. So it identifies and confirms the deity of God, which of course in 1611 they didn't have that. Well, 1611 is before 1611. Between 1604 and 1611 it was published. The translators didn't have that knowledge of the Greek text and the Greek language, so it wasn't translated as strongly as the Granville-Sharp construction says. Now, he also, as I say, goes for modern scholarship. Granville-Sharp, the Greek language, the original Greek language, especially from which the King James is taken, and clear reference to the modern textual criticism and scholarship of Greek, which has resulted in modern translations. In fact, In fact, when discussing translations, discussing interpretations of the Bible with them, Walter Martin clearly asks, have you read some of the modern translations? Because the modern translations would prove the point and made it very clearly, much more clear than the King James would have done, on some of these doctrinal things that was being promoted. Now, the reason why I'm mentioning all of this is, let's also remember that he and his Christian brother there also on a challenge from the challenge of the Oneness people, when asked would they consider accepting believers who were still Roman Catholics, Walter Martin's response was, well, if they are believers and they're fallen into error, I would correct that error in brotherly love. That's what he was implying. He said, you know, because people still sin. If they are believers in Christ, you can find people who believe and don't believe in all denominations, but if they are believers, I would consider them believers who have fallen into error, and I will love them as my brothers in Christ. And that's what he was coming out. That was what he was coming out to say. So he would accept them. Now, all of these things were all applauded by Heaven Clear, and rightly so. Perfectly agree. The problem is, as I see it, is that Heaven Clear is a King James only advocate. And had Walter Martin been using the same argumentative techniques in defence of the gospel against the Oneness heresy, if he'd have been using that against the King James only position, I wonder if we'd have been seeing Walter Martin is a Luciferian on the next video from Heaven Clear. I wonder if we'd have been seeing a wolf with a sheep's head, a sheep's mask, being faded in and out from the screen, and then instead of James White's face being on the video, it would have been Walter Martin's face. Because this is all the sort of stuff which is refuted and is denied. It's all these techniques which Walter Martin's used are at best considered bad scholarship, and at worst considered satanic by people who defend the King James only position. Of course, I support Walter Martin on this one because he wasn't King James only, and had the King James only controversy really began prior to his death, I know Walter Martin would most probably have had something very clear to say about this as well. So really, I'd like to ask Heaven Clear and any other King James onlyist up there the same question Walter Martin asked these Oneness people. We disagree on many things, and many things we agree on. But do you accept me as a brother in Christ? Even though I don't hold to the King James only position, will you still accept me as a brother in Christ? I have to be honest, I don't think, obviously Heaven Clear has some serious problems with James White. After listening to this debate where she applauds Dr. Walter Martin, I really would have to wonder whether she would accept Walter Martin as a brother in Christ, and I hold the same position. Would I be accepted as a brother in Christ? Thanks for listening.